Richardson, without further ado, maybe we can start by if any other council doesn't have any comments or questions, maybe the chief can start with the report.
Okay, we're going to give this a shot. I apologize for not being able to be there tonight, but again, having a family member tested who actually came back negative this afternoon, so I should be back in the office tomorrow. So if I can just pull this report up. And okay, I kind of lost you guys. There you go. Okay. So the report that our crime analyst unit provided for us shows that through November 30th, 2020, there has been a total of 48 incidents of shots fired from which evidence was recovered. The statistics represent a 19% decrease when compared to 2019, which I was kind of surprised to see that. I thought they were up more this year, but they went by the numbers. So this is where we are. We'll see if we had a better year this year than last year. The 48 incidents, 31% were gang related, primarily taking place between 10 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock in the morning on weekends. The most problematic neighborhoods for shots fired are Sunnyvale, Lower Highlands, and Aiken neighborhood. The Aiken neighborhood has had a significant less incidents than last year. 2020, 34 incidents of shots fired resulted in either victim shot and killed, which was 4, a victim non-fatally shot, which was 10, damage to a residence is 12, and damage to a motor vehicle was 8. Homicides by means of a firearm this year, all homicides by means of a firearm were gang-related and resulted in arrest. Non-fatal shootings, in all but 2 incidents, the victim suffered a single gunshot wound, and 2 appear to be self-inflicted. If they were loading the gun or showing someone a gun and it went off accidentally, is probably what happened here. All were gang-related with the exception of 2 which the victims were uncooperative. 4 victims also had a drug nexus and thought to be a drug rip. They were after the drugs and or the money. 2 of the incidents happened on Appleton Street, which is considering the population down there. I was surprised to see that. You don't really see firearm incidents on Appleton Street. It's usually other weapons used. As far as this year, our gang unit and neighborhood action unit has been doing, and patrol, has been doing a pretty good job recovering firearms. There was 89 firearms recovered from January 1st to the end of November. 53 were recovered by house searches, which was 17. 17 were recovered during motor vehicle searches. 7 were taken from people, and 12 were found hidden outside around houses or under vehicles at calls we responded to. 36 surrendered, 14 surrendered by restraining orders, so they were forced to surrender those guns to us. 33 resulted in arrest, and 3 blank guns were also recovered, which I think what they mean here is starter pistols. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Basically, they use them at the beginning of races and so forth. You know, like I said earlier, when I say that we're down from last year, it just doesn't seem like that. And when I thought through the whole thing, as we all know, it seemed to be this year that they were much more brazen. They were, you know, some were during the day. Obviously, we saw the incident up on Wilder Street with the AK-47. But as a result of the last homicide investigation we did, we were able to recover what we believe to be that weapon from the house it was fired at. And I believe that we're going to be able to tie that rifle in with several other shots fired in the city. Some were in, actually, believe it or not, in Belvedere about 3 years ago off of Boylston Street. AK-47 shell casings were found. So that gun is currently at the State Police Lab with all the shell casings from every incident that we've had since I took over of shots fired anywhere in the city where an AK-47 was used. So that was a great piece of police work done, not only just the arrest on the murder, but the recovery of that weapon, to have that taken off the street. How anyone didn't get killed the night they used it on Wilder Street or when they fired into the house off of Boylston 2 or 3, I think it was 2 years ago, is very surprising to us. So again, you know, teamwork by our members here has gone a long way for us, and it continues to. So one of the things we also had discussion with, I hope you all have the same report I have. I know because we had to keep moving this meeting and changing the numbers because we, you know, dates didn't line up and people's schedules didn't line up. But if you look at, I asked our crime analysis and I spoke with the deputies that, all right, so let's see how we're doing compared to other cities in the Commonwealth, because as you know, we're all, watching the news now because there's not a lot to do, but this violent crime, gun violence is happening across the country. Ever since the COVID-19 took off, it's just increased everywhere. And that's why, again, why I'm surprised that we're down by 19, considering it's been up in other places. I mean, you look at Lawrence, they calls for shots fired, they had 40. Brockton had 92 with a population of 95,000. We had 84 with a population of 111. And then you look at the bigger cities, it really starts to climb when you look at, Springfield 337, Worcester 449, and Boston over 1,000. So not to say that we're in a great place, but considering the good police work that's been done, see if I can get you guys back, I think it could be worse. So, and our efforts continue, thanks to the Shannon grant, we actually, on the weekends when the usual marked units are busy, between downtown and other neighborhoods, that unit is held over. And if they can't do it, the neighborhood action unit is held over till 3 a.m. And part of the Shannon grant pays that overtime. It doesn't come from city funds. So the gang kids know that we're out there. Like I mentioned the last time we had this discussion, that they do ride around in unmarked cars, but they are in uniform, just like you would see the crash team on LAPD. But and they've been doing some great work. They were heavily involved in the last homicide investigation. Actually, a piece of their police work resulted in the arrest. We had a suspect right out of the gate because of the efforts of the gang unit when the shots were fired over off of Spring Ave. They immediately went to the call and they tucked themselves in. And after all the cruisers had responded to the scene, lights and siren, they just tucked in and hid. And then sure enough, someone started up their car and pulled away. And that was our person that provided us the information that we needed to make the arrest. It took us about 3 weeks to get to the end of it, but between the Criminal Bureau and gang officers, it worked out. But unfortunately, a young man lost his life. So our efforts continue.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. It's very, very concise. Before I continue, I was just made aware that also present via Zoom is Councillor Vietnam Nguyen and Councillor Lida Mercia, also present.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. This is a very, very concise report, statistic, and as you mentioned, Chief, that the number actually went down from last year from 59 to 48, 19%. But I find it more interesting in terms of how these numbers are described. I don't know, Mr. Clerk, if you have the report, would you mind put that up on the screen for about 1 minute so the folks at home can see it?
If Moran is there, I just don't, I'm having difficulty doing it, but maybe Moran, here we go.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you, Moran.
Great. So on the screen for the people at home, the statistic compare the numbers from 2019 to 2020, and the Chief has separated by months on the left column and by neighborhood on the right side. And as the Chief mentioned, by the neighborhood, the acre seems to be pretty high. Centralville, the Highlands and Low Highlands is a little bit concerning because to me, the Highlands, that's a total of 16. I believe that's almost a third of the numbers of fire shots throughout the city happen in the Highlands. And the borders, the street between Low Highlands and the Upper Highlands, so to speak, they're not that far apart. It's pretty much one extended neighborhood. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. If you could return back to the screen so we can all see each other's face here, that would be great. I know other councilors have some comments, but Chief, I have a question about the terminology recover. Is that only when the police show up and find evidence? Are there instances where there are shots, but when the police shows up at the scene, there were no evidence to be discovered?
That's correct. Yes. So it could be fireworks. We're not naive by any means. So if we don't find the evidence, it's a standing protocol here in our department, and we go back when the sun comes up. If it was at the early night shift, we'd notify the late shift captain. And as soon as the sun comes up in the morning, they go back to that very scene where the call was to make sure that we didn't miss any rounds in people's homes or in cars. And so it gets checked not once, twice, even maybe 3 times. Detectives could even actually go back out after that and follow up. Because like you know, any one of the neighborhoods in the city. If fireworks or shots are fired, they echo through the neighborhood, and it's kind of hard at times to determine exactly where the spot was unless you can find the shell casings. And these kids are getting smarter. They're going back to carrying revolvers, so you don't really see the shell casings spent out of the weapon onto the street. They picked up in popularity over the last couple of years.
Okay, well, I just have one more comment before Councilor Conway step in with a question or comment. I'm concerned about gang-related activities, and I'm not quite sure what that means. Are these gangs, are they young kids that happen to get a handle on the guns, or are they the gangs that you kind of hear or see on TV from other states that really deal with? I mean, not that all these fire shots and a few drug busts and so forth, not that they're not serious, but I'm thinking more of like really organized crime when they have like big bosses, so to speak. How these gangs categorized in our city? Are they local? They come from outside the city? They come from outside the state? What does it really mean, gang activities here?
Well, I need to be careful about what I talk about publicly as far as what we deal with here in the city as far as the gangs go. But when I received this job, I made it a priority to take a look at some of these gangs that have been around in the city for a very long time. And it's been a long time since we've done some big investigations or whatever. But we definitely doing the street level stuff. And I would say that the group now is older. And it's more about money and not territory, and it's more about who's going to be the big man here. So we're working the streets hard to keep them on the ground. I think the last couple of investigations and arrests hopefully will quiet things down. And if we find any evidence of bigger players involved here, obviously we would address that. But as of right now, it seems like it's mostly the street kids. But I know the manager's been briefed on some of our actions that we've taken over the last 2 years, and we move forward and we make sure that we use that street unit to make sure everybody's not riding around here think they can just fire shots whenever, because during the COVID-19 we've seen that's happened a lot here. They're much more brazen, much more violent, just like I talked about with the other cities in the Commonwealth and across the country.
Thank you. Councilor Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the chief. Chief, thank you for being here tonight, and also thank you for what you do, and also the women and men that help protect us in the city. Really, we all appreciate what they do. When we talk about public safety, quite often the term that will come up will be the Shannon grants. And I'm wondering if you could just take a couple minutes and explain to the public what the Shannon grant is all about, and how it actually affects us in the city, and how it what type of help does it actually give us, and how long has this been around and so forth. Just a little background on it would be, I think, appreciated to the public.
Yeah,
thank you, Chief.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you've been around as long as I have, and longer. And this Shannon grant has been a godsend for us for many years. You could probably go back 15 years or more as far as this grant. We have great grant writers over there, and we have a great relationship with the state and our federal partners as far as grant writing. And the Shannon is broken up into several areas. I know we asked for roughly over $600,000 this year. I was on the emails with Mary Ann today. And we haven't been awarded anything yet, but there's not been 1 year where we haven't received a good amount, every year that's been able to help us. So how that's going to look this year, considering the fiscal climate, we're keeping our fingers crossed, but they've always been very good to us when you look at some of the other cities and towns in the state. And as you know, this is just not about enforcement. This is not about providing overtime to officers to go out and curb street violence, which is important, but it's also preventative. Some of the funds that we have go towards trying to get to these kids before they get involved in gang activity, whether it be through the Girls and Boys Club, whether it be through UTEC, the West End Gym. There's numerous things that we do here in the city to work with our kids before they get themselves to the point where they're put in a situation where they feel like they have to join a gang to protect themselves. That's how it all started when they first came into the country, our Southeast Asian friends and other people in the city. And so it's important that we build those relationships and we let them know that there are other options instead of doing that. Try to keep them busy. Idle hands are not good. So that's kind of what the Shannon Grant's about. 75% of that money goes towards, trying to help these kids before they get in trouble. And the remainder is the street level stuff.
Yeah, great, Chief. I appreciate that. And I know that kind of fills in the gaps with some of the, what the public can know exactly what that's for and how it's used. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
That's a great question. It's a great comment. It seems Councillor Rook's screen is very popular, sharing with two other councillors. I understand Councillor Vista Nguyen also has a question.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I have a couple. First have to do with, I know the Chief alluded to that a lot of these gangsters, this old gang member. So Chief, is it fair to say that these older gang members recruiting the younger one to sell for them? And is it also fair to say that this gang these days is less of a territory than money and drug related? And those are the one question. The other is that I know that you have the number, the statistic. Glad to see that it's going down 10% from 59% to 49%. But could you also speak to, the domestic violence and aggravated assault and sexual assault? What are those numbers in compared to, last year, particularly given COVID, everyone's inside? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I don't have the stats in front of me, but like I say, we have another CompStat coming up this week, and you're right. I mean, everybody's kind of cooped up in the house. You're seeing, more domestic violence incidents, road rage incidents, the gun violence we were speaking of now. So it's just a very difficult time for everybody, across this country, but obviously here in our city. So we're receiving a lot more calls for that. And I know that they're very busy down in family services. So all I can say that if there's anyone watching tonight that's having any kind of an issue at home that they don't feel safe, you need to call us. You need to come over there and see what we can do for you and get you the help that you need. And there's no reason to tolerate that kind of behavior or to be treated that way. And these are difficult times. People are stressed, financially and mentally. There's a lot going on. And then you have the COVID-19. You can't go out. Kids can't get into school, so it's a difficult time. I've never seen this. I hope I never see it again.
To add to that list is on top of all the items that you mentioned that giving people difficulties is the holidays coming up, and that's always add more stress to the situation. I understand Councillor Mercier also has a question as well.
Well, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have a question about domestic violence and how with the pandemic and people are in close quarters confined to their homes and things more than usual, how did this domestic violence rate fare? Did it go up substantially? Was it not that bad? But Councillor Nguyen already asked that question, and you don't actually have the stats there. So since I'm here, and I just wanted to say to the Chief that I can't tell you how grateful this city should be with the efforts of the co-op team. They are unbelievable. I see firsthand, they go out every day. I'm trying not to brag about them, but I really can't help it. They're just amazing, and they do a lot of good. They kind of diffuse a lot of the tough issues where people are fighting against people, and they try to, talk to them reasonably. And if they need anything, they bring them into the sheriff's office and they get clothes and stuff. It's sad to see them out there, but with the co-op team, they're doing a tremendous job. And on a lighter note, because this is very, very serious stuff, and I like to interject a little humor, if the Chief would just sit a little bit more to his left, that light above his head looks like a halo, doesn't it?
It's
Take a
not.
look.
It's not.
Yeah, see that? Look at
Yeah,
that.
it's not.
It looks like a halo. I
Yeah.
kid you not.
I assure you, it's not a halo.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If any other councillor have comments or question, before they do, I just want to, I'm really thankful to Chief for being here and give us these statistics for really understand. And I know that because people are home, we pay more attention to what's going on around us. The other question I have is about the shots that go into the dwellings, that go into the houses and go into the vehicles. How is that treated from the police point of view and the legal point of view? How if the borders go through somebody's house, thank God it happened a couple of times in the Highlands area, but it did not hurt anybody, but it left not just damage to the property, but really scars to the people living inside the house. What are the I guess lack of a better word, punishment if the perpetrators were caught? There, what can be done? Nobody's hurt, but it went to the property, it went to the house.
Well, we've had a saying in policing since I began this, and my father did it long before me, is that when you can't be safe in your own home, there's a problem. So, and that we take that not personal, but pretty close to it. I mean, when you show up at someone's house and they have that look on their face, we're the safest place they should be. And someone fires into their house. And sometimes it's by accident, but either way, it's an intimidation thing. It's an intimidation thing against other gang members. And sometimes they hit the wrong house. That's the scary part. And innocent people have nothing to do with the illegal activity are affected by that. They're afraid to call. They're afraid they're going to come back and retaliate against them because they called. So we take this very serious, and we not to get into too much of the investigating part, but it kind of sends a message. You look at whose house is in the area and who could have been involved, and you try to backtrack it from there to see who the group could be, who had the problem. So we take it serious. But I know there's some bills out there pending that we hope they get passed. Representative Mum and District Attorney Marion Ryan are trying to get the legislators to, increase the punishment for firing into houses, because I think that needs to happen. There's three places I always said: where you sleep, where you learn, and where you pray. That's our job, to make sure that you're safe in those places, and especially when you're at your home. So I think a clear message has to be sent by the delegation, which they're on board, and the rest of the reps and senators in the state, that this is the kind of activity that cannot be tolerated, right? Not, people need to go to jail, need to be held accountable.
Hello?
Thank you. I'm not quite sure if somebody wanted to say something.
I thought someone was cutting in.
Okay. I'm not sure. If anybody want to make a comment, please raise your hand or alert me again. I want to get back to the
Mr. Chair, this is Rodney. I'm in the council chamber. I don't know if you can see me or not.
I cannot. Thank you for joining us, Councilor Rodney.
I wanted to
I
ask.
have to switch screen. Do you have a question or comment,
I just have a question for the chief. I know most of the points have been covered up to this point. I just wanted to ask a little bit of a different question or approach. All good words from the chief, from other members of the city council relative to the police department. Chief, I'd like to ask, how are the police officers during all this COVID handling, the multitude of issues of mental health and, domestic violence, drugs, violence? How's the staff doing, and morale, et cetera? I'm sure it's a challenge, but the approach that you might be taking as well to, I think the council took a strong vote and sent a strong message that we support the efforts. We understand. I think these meetings are very helpful because it gives us an opportunity to express our gratitude, but just wanted to get your take on that.
I'll try to keep this under 2 hours, but it's to be honest with you, it's been difficult. It's you know, with the bill sitting at the State House right now is causing a lot of stress. That's going to change everything in the city. If that governor signs that, I pray to God he does not, because it will change all the work that we've done for the last 20 years here. You know, I've read through it, the whole 129 pages. I don't know how any representative could have read that in a matter of an hour. And it's very damaging. And I'll tell you, it's having an effect over there. But to their credit, once again, they're coming to work. I look at the sick time daily to make sure that we're not overspending here, because obviously, you know, the city's in a financial strain here, and we got to make sure that we stick with our budget as much as possible. And they are coming to work, but they definitely are stressed. I talked to the union, but I'll tell you this honestly, guys, and ladies and gentlemen, the support you've given, you know, Council Conway's letter, you know, we're a little concerned about the timing. We don't want to light it back up again. And we had that discussion, but that was a great letter, and that went a long way with men and women over there in the police department. And so now it's just a matter of them seeing how this bill shakes out. And to tell you that, I can't say it enough. I'm very, very concerned about this bill. It's going to change a lot of things here.
Okay, thanks, Chief. I appreciate it. The men and women of the Lowell Police Department and you and your staff know where we stand, and I concur with you on elements of this bill. So we'll see what the governor does with it. But thank you, appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor. We have a couple of minutes, and I know that we have a lot of questions and comments. Just because we were not able, the neighborhoods were not able to meet on a monthly basis, but we are on a short time frame, and we do have a regular meeting pretty soon. I just want to look again at the neighborhoods. You know, the numbers by neighborhoods are different, and you know, it's a couple of neighborhoods which you highlight, Chief. You highlight all the neighborhoods which have high numbers, and I see that the Highlands and the Low Highlands have a lot, and the Aiken, Centerville, and other neighborhoods maybe have 1 or 3 or 4. Definitely different neighborhoods have different issues and different problems. Do you and the police department have different strategies to tackle the neighborhood differently, or how's that being handled?
Well, I mean, it's officers assigned everywhere across the city, as we know, and then, you know, they're more assigned to the hotspot locations. And, you know, when you look at the Highlands and, you know, the increase in the Highlands, I guess the only way I can explain that is that, like Councilor Noon said, that some of these people involved in illegal activity in the city that are members of a gang are older and have become much more financially stable, if you will, and have benefited by being able to move into like the Highlands. Some of the families up there that have been targeted, you know, didn't start off living in the Highlands when they first came to the city. They were, you know, like most immigrants that come to the city, were, you know, in the Acre and Stoneville, and we're aware of that. So when we patrol a neighborhood like the Highlands, it gets patrolled much different than it would the high crime areas like the Acre and Stoneville. We try to have a much more visibility presence there, so people in the neighborhood that need us the most know that we're there. As far as like the Highlands go, that would be, you know, much more community policing based, which all of it is community policing based. I shouldn't say that, but it's a little different in the fact that we know locations that we need to watch as if they were in the Acre or Stoneville, if that makes any sense. Like, you know what I mean? You know, we know the locations. We know where these people live. We know where they work. So we patrol that street a little bit more than we would Stevens Street. You know, so you know it's more surgical, I guess, is the word I might be able to use as far as patrol operations in like the Highlands and Belvedere. You know, we know there's some places we don't have to be concerned about. You know, maybe just ride by and wave to people. And there's other parts of those nicer neighborhoods that need to be looked at a little bit stronger. So that's, if that makes any sense. I mean, I think that's the only way I can really describe our efforts.
Absolutely. Councilor Samaras, do you have a comment or question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, thank you for your presentation tonight. I think you know very well that you have the support of the Lowell City Council. There's no question about that. And you and your members do deserve that support. And you also have, you know, the neighborhood groups aren't meeting, but the thing is, you know that you have support of the neighborhood groups. The thing that I'm concerned with, I think police overall, I mean, the climate that we have is very difficult. And the thing is, do you have the resources or the finance or the access to resources to help officers, in other words, with support? I mean, because the thing is, every day, you know, they have their job, they see the rules changing on them, they see certain things happening where, you know, certain rights are being taken away from them. It's very difficult today to be a policeman. I look at today and I say, why would somebody want to take on the responsibilities? It seems the problems are endless. But again, you have to support Lowell, but sometimes that's not enough. Do you feel that you have the resources to give your officers the support that they need?
Well, I'll start with this. So we sat down at the beginning of this year before the pandemic hit. Myself, Mary Ann, the two deputies. What's our goals this year? What do we need to do? And officer wellness was one of the things that came up even before we realized how ugly this was going to get between the bill and between COVID-19. So again, Mary Ann Bellotta and the women over there that write our grants have got us another grant that's really kind of geared towards officer wellness. So we're looking towards, you know, putting a gym back in the PD that had to be taken away years ago because of lack of space for evidence. You know, we're working with the manager's office and stuff like that to try to acquire some more space over in DPD as other people move to other locations in the city. So we were able to get funds. The union's willing to jump in and help. So I'm hoping that that's going to be some kind of a stress reliever. So when people either come to work, you know, and you know, work out before they go to work, work out before they go home. You know, we even had that discussion the other day about if we were to open it, who knows when we'd be able to do it. Say it's the spring, we might have to limit how many people we can let in the gym. I mean, just so many things going on. And we did actually contract with a person, a clinician or whatever that is not involved with the city. They're from Woburn actually. So a lot of our officers, when they have issues that they need to talk about, can call or take the ride down to that person's office. And the reports I'm getting back, he has quite the following. A lot of people are going to see him, and hopefully they're getting the help that they need. So we will continue to do that. And, you know, again, back to the bill, you know, not that, you know, we're perfect. You know, we make mistakes like anyone else. We're human, but I think that this bill just goes a little too far. It's going to make it very, very difficult for people to do their job. So that's weighing a lot on our members. Because the thing is that all the work that's been done by many of the people are sitting here in front of me now for the last 20 years. I think the city's benefited from that. And now to treat this police department like some police department that has all the issues with excessive force that we don't have, training, which, you know, we're on top of our training. We're very close to being accredited. First time that's ever happened here at Lowell PD. That's something we've been working on since I took over. And we're very close to that. So all the things that they want to try to correct here, we've been ahead of the curve like we always have been here, trying to make this the best police department it could be, you know, for the residents of the city. So for us to get looked upon as we sat here for the last 20 years and did nothing is disturbing. So yeah, it's been tough, but you know what, the support you've given us, all of you, we'll get through it.
No, thank you for that. I mean, I think it's important for our constituents, citizens in Lowell to realize what you do go through. I mean, you know, when I think of support for the officers, it's not only mental support, but it's legal support. In other words, the laws are changing so much. We have to make sure that, you know, they're able to remain on top of their game. Maybe it suggests to the chair that of the subcommittee that is it possible you think that you and some of your staff could meet with the subcommittee to talk about some of the needs? In other words, we know you need a new police station. I mean, you have a difficult work environment in the first place. And I think you people have handled it so very well. But there are certain things that professional police need. And even though this is a bad time financially and so many issues, I think we still have to dream. I think we still have to look at what the future can bring us. And so perhaps, Mr. Chairman, can arrange something to get more information from the police department as to some of the things that they've talked about internally that we should know so we could help and support Chief, okay?
Yeah, I think that our members don't realize that. You know, I mean, I know the city spending money at probably the worst possible time, you know, to do the locker room over. And I've yet to go down and see it, but I got a brief on it the other day, and they said it's coming out. They're doing a good job. There was a couple of stumbling blocks like any construction project you have. So they continue to work on that. I think that's going to go a long way, but I think everybody that's over here knows that until we get through this high school project, that's probably not going to be reality for new PDs. But, you know, for you guys just to be able to, you know, the manager, to be able to provide those funds to kind of spruce the place up a little bit. And I know DPD did a tremendous, it probably doesn't mean anything to anybody on this meeting, but to the officers at the PD, when they went out and did that whole fountain back over again with the flowers, and, you know, they let us put the blue lights up there. That small little thing went a long way. They talked about that. They still do it. And, you know, kind of gives them a little bit of sense of pride. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Manager. What I was saying, actually, I just flipped through the screen and noticed you joined us. So welcome, Madam Manager. I have, you know, a lot of more questions and comments, but I did promise the subcommittee members that we'll finish by 6:10 so that we can prepare for the next meeting. I don't know if Councilor Rook or Councilor Drinkwater has any comments or questions before we wrap up the meeting. If there are no more
Mr. Chairman,
comments,
I just wanted to just say a couple of words with your permission.
Sure. Absolutely.
You know, I echo what the sentiments have been said here. I think we're very, very fortunate to have the Lowell Police. We've talked about it many times, but sometimes, you know, we take for granted that when there are issues of crime, they're solved quickly. They're solved in a professional way, and we have not experienced in certainly recent times any type of you know, bad behavior, things that the you know, when you look at the bill that the chief mentioned, you know, a lot of the goals in there we're already doing. So there is no disagreement around a lot of the policies, a lot of the training, a lot of the procedures. You know, that's not an issue, and that's not something I think we oppose. So, but it's always been a tough job. It's just, I just want to share with the council and with everybody else how much tougher it is in COVID times for all the reasons stated. You know, when we looked at that locker room over there in that civic center, I couldn't understand for the life of me how anybody could be expected to use it. I soon found out they just don't, because it was in such very poor condition. You know, we put a lot of effort into city buildings. We put a lot of effort, rightfully so, into our schools, millions and millions of dollars. But we have neglected public safety in other city buildings. And so a small effort is underway, and I'm hopeful will be finished very soon. But I also wanted to mention the pandemic, because the police department, who's out in the front line 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, as is the fire department, we've sustained hits in this pandemic. You know, I think, you know, it's inevitable. People who have either gotten the virus or been exposed to the virus, you know, and that's a challenge mentally, physically, but staffing wise, and it's going to continue to be a challenge. I think at one point, Chief, you can correct me, but there were 35 officers out recently because of the pandemic. Same on the fire department, 35 firefighters out. We have people out in departments all across the city, but you know, it's a tough time, and and you layer that on top of the strain and stress of public safety. So I just wanted to say that we appreciate the work that the police department is doing day in and day out. I think, we understand the stress that there is when they have to go and test it because there was some exposure to COVID. These are very tough times. So we appreciate it. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank the men and women of the Lowell Police Department for the work they do.
Well, do a great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Managers, for your comments and putting up those important points. I agree, and I can't thank you enough, Chief, and the entire Lowell Police Department for working so hard and so tirelessly. And one thing that amazed me is that they are very, very friendly, considering the stress that they go through in addition to COVID-19, just dealing with other people's stress. That definitely has an effect on them, and they are so friendly towards everybody that greet them or meet them when they show up the scene. They talk to everybody professionally and courteously, so that they do a fantastic job. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to provide us the report tonight, and much appreciated. And if nobody else has any more comments or questions, motion to adjourn the meeting by Councilor Drinkwater, second by Councilor Rook. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.